are your top three priorities for the Atlanta Police Department?
Well, first and foremost, is to make sure that I have a force that is capable of securing the city of Atlanta. I don't think that a mayor has a more important job. So my top three priorities, number one, will be making sure that we actually have a force that is motivated and adequately paid and is not dealing with furloughs that it's dealing with right now, and to put that issue to bed. Number two will be to identify a chief that can lead it and revitalize it. So I'm going to be personally involved in that process, making sure that we get that done. And number three, making sure that the men and women of the City of Atlanta Police Force know that when they're out doing a job that is as difficult as anything that any of us do, that if they're injured, they're not going to have to worry about whether their insurance provider is going to treat them in a fair way.
Thank you. In the first 100 days, you said you would revitalize. What are some of the things that our citizens and our police officers will see in your first 100 days as mayor?
Well, first, they will see a process that selects a police chief that is open and transparent, that involves the men and women of the line, both when we're identifying the group to lead and once we have the 3 to 5 people that we're considering for chief. I want the men and women who work every single day to be involved in the vetting process so that whomever we select comes in with the confidence in the men and women on the force. So I am saying in no uncertain terms that I am going to give disproportionate weight to the way that the men and women of the police force feel. The second thing that I'm going to do is to get down in the trenches and find out exactly what the issues are that are impacting our attrition rate, which is 3 to 4 points higher than comparable cities in the city of Atlanta. So I want to stop losing the quality men and women that we have and get to the bottom of what is the problem. Do we need to raise money for scholarships? Is that a part of the effort? Do we need coordinators to help police find affordable housing in the city of Atlanta? What are the specific things that would be transformational in order to deal with the attrition rate? And once we secure and provide for the police that we have right now today, I then want to have a conversation with the men and women of the police force about growing our force, because candidly, I believe it is too small. Now, we've added 100,000 new residents since 2002 to the city of Atlanta. At the same time, we've added 300 police officers. So we're at about 1,650 officers today. And I don't believe that that footprint is the right size footprint for police in the city of Atlanta. But I'm not going to deal with growing the force, although that is a very clear goal of mine, until the men and women who are currently on the force feel that the issues and concerns that they have raised and been dealing with for the last 6 years are being addressed in a very aggressive way. Now, you heard me say that I did not support the 3 meal tax increase. I supported a 1 meal tax increase. I will share with you that because that 3 meal increase has been passed, I view that as an opportunity to address some of the areas and concerns of men and women in public safety. I mean, as a mayor, you get to choose where you place priorities, and my priorities will be with the men and women in public safety.
You stated earlier that one of your priorities is openness and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have confidence that there are 1,650 police officers. I think that the public doesn't know the number. The press can't get a solid number. The number seems to change.
Yes.
How will you address that lack of confidence in data that comes out of the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I will address it with someone like you by my side. You know, the only thing you can really do is to have people that the public trusts go in, give them full access, and then once they have been given full access, you come to an agreement on what is. Now, whether that is public audits by a big firm, by one of the major firms with an impeccable reputation, I don't know. But I know that we can find a solution, and I know that we can get to the truth. And I tell you what else. I believe that the public safety function in our government should have a dedicated revenue stream. And I will go to the state to ensure that there is a dedicated revenue stream for our public safety function so that we can have more transparency. So, for example, if you passed a law at the General Assembly that said XYZ dollars shall be dedicated to public funding, and that there shall be public accounting on an annual basis, and that you shall provide the names and numbers of the force, you would then have a state law that required identification of these individuals, and then you would actually be able to enforce it. That is the kind of transparency that I am in favor of as it relates to police and fire. And I will tell you what I will not do. What I will not be doing is to use the police and fire department to balance my budgets. I will not use a number that we can't fill and then, as was done in previous administrations, take the money for the unfilled positions. We're budgeting for a 1,750 person force. We have 1,400 officers, taking the revenue for the positions that were unfilled and using it for something that is not in the public safety space. Okay. See, I happen to think that if Atlanta actually turns the corner on the perception and reality of crime in our city and gets the issue of what the real numbers are and really start making forward movement in this space, that when the economy turns, you won't be able to stop capital inflow into our city. That's what I believe. And I think if we don't get our arms around this, we're placing everything we've built at risk. That's what I believe.
In making that transition, will you change the duties and responsibilities of the chief?
I would have to get advice on that. I mean, what I would do is to get advice around what would actually make government function. I don't want to sit at this table and commit to changing the responsibilities and functions of a chief, and I don't even know who that chief is. I think a lot of it would have to do with who the chief is that we ultimately selected, advice from people who know policing better than I do in terms of what is best in class, what would be healthy for Atlanta, and then make the decision to move at that time.
I'm sure that as you've been campaigning, citizens have told you that they've lost confidence in our current chief of police.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
And how will the citizens know if our next chief doesn't succeed, whether it's because they failed or because the mayor failed to hold that chief accountable?
Well, if the next chief doesn't succeed, it'll be because of me. So I'm not going to pass the buck. If the next chief does not succeed, I will fire them.
That's a good answer. The next question?
I just wanted to be candid. That's what you would do. My next chief will not come into office with a contract, for example.
Great. Private security patrols are something that have increased in Atlanta, and many people see that as a no-confidence vote for the Atlanta Police Department. How do you feel about these supplemental police patrols in our neighborhoods?
I think that supplemental police patrols are appropriate until we turn the curve and achieve our objective on actually building the police force into what it can be. See, I don't really view the private police patrols as a knock on the men and women that do the job every day. I view that as a knock on the failure of leadership and the ability to turn the corner on how people feel about the job that the leadership is doing. And if I were mayor, I would view that as a criticism of me.
These neighbors,
I take this public safety issue very, very seriously. I'm going to do more and bet my term in office on what we do in the public safety space. I'm prepared to go that far, on camera clearly.